The Rip City Drive.
All right, joining us once again from the Rose Garden Report. He is on X at Highkin. Sean Highkin is back on the Rip City Drive. Sean, good afternoon. Thanks for the time, my friend.
How you guys doing?
Oh, very well. You've got the Combine coming up in Chicago. You excited about that?
Yeah, I'm flying out there on Saturday. The draft lottery is on Sunday, I think early afternoon. And then after that, we'll know what pick the Blazers have. And then the whole next week in Chicago will be the draft combine, which is where all the front offices are, watching guys do drills, and, the official measurements will come out for, different prospects, and teams will start meeting with guys and, interviewing them and just kind of starting to gather intel. And then that kind of kicks off the whole pre-draft process, because then after that, teams are going to start bringing guys in for in-person workouts, and then that takes you kind of to the draft. But yeah, the whole process kind of starts up this coming weekend.
Hey, Sean, both of us have been real curious about that. Why is the lottery on a Sunday now? It's killing us as a talk show, by the way. Do you have any intel on why they did that?
I don't. It's been on a Tuesday every year.
Yeah.
I've gone the last several years, and it's always on a Tuesday, kind of in that, leading into, one of the conference finals games. I believe last year it was like game one of the Western Conference Finals between the Lakers and Nuggets was the game that the lottery preceded. And I guess, we're kind of at this point in the calendar, and it's not even, we're like just barely starting the second round now, but it's happening. So it's at noon Pacific time, which is 2:00 on the, in Central time, which is where it is in Chicago. But it's going to basically going to be, I looked up the schedule just to kind of see why they did that. It's going to be the pregame show essentially for game 4 of the Knicks Pacers series, which is the ABC matinee game, which is 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. So I guess, that's a big showcase day, I guess, for, they want to put it on ABC, and, it's a primetime, matinee matinee Sunday game on network TV. So I guess they want to put it on there. I was a little surprised they went that way also.
We're talking with Sean Highkin from the Rose Garden Report. From the people you've spoken to around the league, what's the best way you can summarize how they view the upcoming draft?
I think there's a lot, and the way that Joe Cronin put this at his exit interview was pretty charitable, the way he put it. He said it was a draft that doesn't have a lot of consensus, which basically means that last year it's like, everybody knew going in that whoever wins the lottery is going to take Victor Wembanyama, and they're going to be set for the next 10 years. And then, you look back, before that, the last several years, there was always kind of somebody that you knew was going to be probably the number one pick, whether it was, Paolo Banchero the year before, or, Zion Williamson, whatever year that was, 2019, I think. Like, there's usually at least one guy that you look at and say, whoever wins the lottery is going to get this guy, and they're going to have a chance to get themselves a franchise player, whoever that ends up being. There's really not anybody in this. First of all, there's no consensus on who the number one pick is. There could be some guys that are talked about as going number one that could go, number 7 or number 8, or there could be somebody that is not right now, not even projected as a top 10 guy. And, after the combine, if somebody unexpected just kind of blows everybody away, maybe now suddenly, this guy's going top 5. There's so much more room for just interpretation of this draft class, depending on, what your organization values and how you scout guys. And this is not to say that I don't think there's talent in this draft, because there's talent in every draft. It's just, you don't really know if any of the guys you draft. You could draft somebody number 1 overall, and they end up just being like a good starter and not a franchise cornerstone, and that might just be what this talent class is. But there's really just no, like, there could be somebody who goes number 1 that the team that's picking number 2 didn't even have the guy that went number 1 like in their top 10 on their board. Like, there's really not usually this much variance.
Curious, Sean, what are your thoughts on Scott Brooks and Rodney Billups not coming back as assistant coaches?
I mean, So they announced at the end of the season at the exit interviews that Chauncey Billups is going to be back, and he has 1 year guaranteed left on his deal. They have a team option for the following season that hasn't been picked up. I think they kind of figured out that, if they're not going to make a change at the head coaching spot, they need to do something to shake some things up, on the staff, and maybe bring, just do something different with the staff, and just maybe, just kind of make some changes there. And I think it was also just like, in some of the cases, like Steve Hetzel left earlier, a couple weeks ago because he got a job opportunity with Jordy Fernandez in Brooklyn. It would have a promotion for him because he would be the lead assistant on that staff. And then I guess they were just kind of looking at, changes to make, and those are the guys. I don't know exactly what everybody's contract situation was, but if guys' contracts were coming up, then you make a decision to renew them or not. And I think they, just decided that, given the way the last few seasons have gone, has anybody on that coaching staff done enough to earn having their contract renewed? I would argue probably not, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do with those openings going forward, because all three of those openings that they have right now are going to be filled, I was told.
What kind of assistance do you think they're looking for in regards to experience, or what type of coaches do you think they might look for to fill up that staff?
I definitely think they want somebody with experience at least for the lead assistant job, which is the Scott Brooks job, which, part of when they hired him 3 years ago was, they hired Chauncey Billups, who had 1 year of NBA experience as an assistant, hadn't been a head coach, obviously, and they kind of knew that he was going to, need some growing into the job, and it was going to take him a little bit to kind of get his feet wet. And so they wanted to bring in an assistant with experience, and I had somebody like Scott Brooks, where you may, wherever you want to land on the job that he did, but he has been a head coach for a number of years, both in Oklahoma City and in Washington, and had significant experience coaching stars, and was a guy that people liked, and they thought that somebody like that would be a good presence on Chauncey Billups' staff. I think that it's probably, I don't know exactly who they're going to go after, but just to throw a hypothetical out there, and this is just me hypothetically spitballing. This is not me reporting that anybody is on anybody's list, or that anybody has been reached out to, or what anybody's interest level is. But let's say the Suns fire Frank Vogel in the next week or so, which they haven't done it yet, but it just reading the tea leaves, it feels like that's probably the way that's heading. Giving him kind of a soft landing for a year, and then he can get back in the mix for, head coaching jobs in the future. And it's somebody that comes in and, brings credibility. And then, I don't know, let's say that the Blazers decide to make a coaching change in the middle of next season. Then you kind of have somebody in-house that, has significant head coaching experience and, can step in, right away kind of without missing a beat. If the Blazers had done something, made a coaching change in the middle of one of these last seasons. Like let's say after that January road trip, they decided to fire Chauncey. You have Scott Brooks there to step in, and it's a guy who's been a head coach for 10 years and isn't going to take any need any adjusting or adapting or any of that. I think that somebody with that level of experience and kind of built-in credibility is somebody that they might try to go after, at least for the lead assistant spot. Now, what's going to be really interesting is, and I don't know the answer to this, is how easy or hard is it going to be to get guys to come on board, given that the head coach that they would be working under is in a lame duck year, and you don't know what he's going to be back next season, but you don't know what his future is after that. So are you going to take a job as an assistant under somebody that may or may not still have that job a year from now? And then if that job does come open, are you going to be a candidate for that job? Or then, are they going to hire somebody from the outside who's then going to want to bring in their own staff? So it's going to be real interesting to see how that all plays out over the next couple months.
There's some interesting names out there, too. And you mentioned a guy like Vogel, who probably will get fired or may get fired. The other thing was you would think there'd be some real emphasis on a couple top developmental guys if you can get them, because of the youngsters on this team, and it's likely to get even younger here soon. I'm thinking of a guy like, and I don't know if you could ever get him, but Phil Handy apparently is out in L.A., and he's noted as one of the best in the business. Would there be any interest, or do you think there'd be any chance that he would come up here?
I haven't heard a ton of specific names, but,
I did see that he got let go when Darvin Ham got let go, and they basically just let go of that entire staff. So he's open to opportunities, I suppose. Maybe he's just I don't know what he was making. I think he was probably he was one of the top assistants there. I'll bet he was probably pretty well compensated there. So I don't know whether he's wanting to just kind of chill for a year. This kind of happens with some like sometimes guys get fired. Like we remember when the Blazers fired Terry Stotts, we didn't hear from him for like a year, and then he was still getting paid for a couple years. He interviewed for some jobs. So I don't know what anybody's level of interest is, but yeah, I mean, Phil Handy, if they could get him, that certainly wouldn't be the worst guy in the world to add to the staff.
We're talking with Sean Highkin from the Rose Garden Report. Do you think this staff changes impacts the way Chauncey views the upcoming season? And the reason why I asked Sean is because at the exit interview, you could see the conflict that exists between what he desires and would like to see from the team this next season compared to that of maybe what the front office is going to look to do. And he's probably getting ready for another year of taking on a lot of losses. How do you think the changes impact the way he looks at the upcoming season?
I don't think it really impacts anything from his end or from the front office's end, because they both said what they said, both him and Joe Cronin. Chauncey said he wants to do more winning and have, development be a secondary concern. And then Joe said basically the opposite, that they don't have enough talent to win and they need to still be focused more on development than anything else. Both of those guys, there's no reason their stances are going to change, regardless of who the assistant coaches are or are not. So it's just going to be, the dynamic, I think, is just kind of going to be similar. It's just you're going to see some different names on the bench.
So given that, Sean, I think that's a tough dynamic. And at some point, are you on the same page we are, that next year, if there's been any tanks here at all, the one we're going to really see is next year because of the quality of players available in the draft next year?
Oh yeah, they're going to be in the lottery. This is, and this is something I've been kind of saying for a couple months. I think they would like to not be in the depths of the lottery. I think they would like to not be a 21-win team in 25-26. But I think next season is going to be, record-wise similar. Maybe, I don't know about the exact number. I don't know what the number of wins that it's going to take to be third or fourth in the lottery standings, whatever the case may be. You're still going to have to reckon with teams like Washington, Detroit, some of those. San Antonio is going to be better because I think they're going to get more talent around Wembanyama, and he's only going to get better. And it's so they're going to be in. We're going to be talking a year from now about still talking about like scouting top 5 lottery prospects. That's going to be the case next season. I think beyond that, they would like to get kind of back into the playoff mix, but next season is going to be record-wise at least a lot like this one. I think you would hope that the difference is that their guys can be healthy for more of the year so you can actually see what guys look like together. But record-wise and where they are in the standings, I think people need to get ready for next season to be a lot like this one.
Hey, Dave, want to get your take on a couple of series just to see where you're at on this. What do you think about Denver and Minnesota Game 2 coming up tonight? The Wolves get the victory in Game 1. Who do you like in the series?
I was kind of going into it just, deferring to Denver just because they're the defending champions and Jokic is the best player in the league. But I'm kind of, and this is an entirely vibes-based pick, I'm kind of in on Minnesota as like a team of destiny type of thing at this point. It's like just how they won that last game. And, the game tonight's going to be interesting because I think Rudy Gobert has some personal thing. I don't know if he's going to play or not, but I'm kind of now leaning towards Minnesota, but I could see that one going either way.
What about OKC and Dallas?
I might go Dallas there. I'm going to look like an idiot if Oklahoma, because Oklahoma City was the 1 seed and they handled New Orleans pretty quickly, but I just, Luka and Kyrie, those guys have all kind of been there. I do think the Maxi Kleber injury is actually a little bit more impactful than people realize, but I might lean Dallas. Again, that one I could go either way. I might look like an idiot for thinking Oklahoma City, hasn't been there before, so they're at the disadvantage. But I at this point I'm like sort of leaning Dallas.
All right. What about the Knicks and Pacers, which kick off tonight?
I like the Knicks. I think I trust them more. I trust their they've been more consistent. Just all the different, obviously Blazer legend Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson. Like the Knicks I think are more like, and Tyrese Halliburton hasn't been the same guy since basically he had that hamstring injury before the around the All-Star break. So it's just I kind of think the Knicks.
All right, Sean Highkin, Rose Garden Report here on the Rip City Drive. Have a great trip out to the Combine, my friend, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, absolutely.